Will I finish it before the wedding? And most importantly, will it actually fit? Hello, welcome back to my chaotic corner of the internet. Today, one way or another, in this video, we will be finishing this dress. We have a lot to do and not that much time to get it done, but first we need Caffination. So the pockets I'm going to attach with French seams on both of the sides of the skirt. But the rest of the seam I won't have to do that because luckily I cut the skirt out on the selvage. So this won't fray, so I won't have to do French seams the whole way down, thankfully. So that will save me a little bit of time at least. So enough talk, let's get started. I have placed the pocket wrong side to wrong side on all of the different skirt pieces on the side seams. So now I'm just going to sew down here until the end of the pocket piece, and then we will flip it, do the same thing again, and then that seam will be nicely encompassed in the French seam. So yeah, let's get sewing. Okay, so the first seam for the French seams is done. Woohoo! So as you can see, I've trimmed down the seam allowance already. So now I can take this over to the ironing board, flip the seam out, iron, and then flip it over again so that it is now right side to right side, and then sew down that seam again so that it is all encapsulated in that second seam. If you want a better explanation of how to do French seams, I'll put a video somewhere in the cards or in the description because there's loads of tutorials out there. I'm not the best at explaining how to do these kind of things. So as I've said before, I'm making this dress to attend a wedding. But the reason why I wanted to make a dress to go to a wedding instead of just buying something is, one, because it's, you know, a bit more sustainable making my own dress, especially out of dead stock fabric, instead of buying something that's probably made in China, getting it shipped halfway across the world, just to probably wear it once and never wear it again. Plus, it's a good way to expand my skills using different fabrics, all of that kind of stuff. Well, one of the other reasons is to kind of get over my fear of wearing my handmade clothing out of the house, which might sound a little bit silly because, you know, the reason why you want to make clothes is so that you can wear them and go out and wear them. But I always feel like people are going to judge on that fact and see all the mistakes that I see when I've been sewing something myself. Because I'm quite a perfectionist, I see all of the mistakes, whereas somebody who doesn't know how to sew will just be impressed that I even made something, let alone the fact that it might have a couple of dodgy seams on it or pockets that are a bit wonky or something like that. And I remember one of the first dresses that I made, I'll try and find a picture and put it here somewhere. I was so happy with it. It looked so cute. And I was like, yeah, definitely going to wear this out. Definitely going to wear this out. But when I did try to wear it outside, I ended up taking it off because I realized that the waistline was a little bit wonky. It was the first time that I tried to do a pleated skirt. And it was the first time that I had made a dress like that in style. So I thought everybody else was going to notice the wonky waistline and all the other mistakes that I made on it. So I never wore it out. It's just sat in my wardrobe and then it's been sat in my loft for God knows how long now, never being worn, despite the fact that I loved it so much when I first made it. But recently I've rewatched Stephanie Canada's video, I Don't Care That My Clothes Look Handmade and You Shouldn't Either. And that's really changed my perspective on wearing my handmade clothing. I watched that video a few years ago now and it didn't really hit me in the same way because at that point I wasn't sewing as much and I was definitely on my very, very beginner pieces that I never wanted to wear out of the house anyway because they were just practice. But since watching that video, I've tried to make a more active effort to wear my handmade clothing outside of the house. And the few times I have gotten compliments and I've said, yeah, I made it, people are just amazed that I've actually made that garment. People don't care about the slightly wonky seam or the fact that that elastic is a little bit twisted in the channel. They don't see all of that. It's only me that sees that. So this dress is really the culmination of me having the confidence to make something that I'm really proud of, but also wear it. And when people do ask, where did you get it from or anything like that, I can say, I made this. This is me. I made this thing. How cool is that? So yeah, if you're somebody who is making your own clothing or starting to make your own clothing and you're really worried about wearing the actual clothing, which again, it sounds so silly to somebody who doesn't sew, but as sewists, we all kind of know that anxiety when you first start. I would really recommend watching that video because it really did change my perspective on it and really gave me some confidence to actually love and wear my garments as garments and not sewing projects. Right, pockets are pinned now, right side to right side and all of the pieces. I'm kind of going to whiz through the next couple of steps because they're kind of the basic stuff of sew pockets together, sew the side seams, etc, etc. So I will come back when it is time to attach the skirt to the bodice, and then I'm going to try it on to make sure that, yeah, again, it does in fact fit before I properly install the invisible zipper at the back. So yeah, let's cue the sewing montage.
The next day.
Good morning. Welcome to day 2. Am I starting to panic a little? Yeah, I am. I have discovered mistake number 2 that I've made with this garment. I couldn't stop thinking about the fit issues yesterday, so last night I measured the waistband, which came to 92 centimetres, and my waist measurement is 91 centimetres. While this means this will zip up and technically fit, I won't be able to sit or eat or move properly in the dress. So while this is a little bit annoying because I am going to have to seam rip both of the back waistband panels off, I'm kind of glad that I caught it now instead of once the skirt is attached, because seam ripping a French seam on a waistband is not very fun. Okay, so I've added the extra length on both of the pattern pieces and I've made sure to shorten them again so that they're the same as the front waistband. So yeah, let's get these cut out, sewn on, and then we can figure out the skirt and the waistband situation. Woohoo! I've reattached both of the back waistband parts and I've ironed them. So now I've remeasured it and it does come, thankfully, to 96 centimetres, which is what I wanted it to come to include the seam allowance and the extra ease now as well. So yay, I can actually do maths, woohoo! Right, so onto the skirt. We've pinned the top to the skirt at the waistband and I've been able to kind of finagle the top to fit the skirt without having to do any gathering, which is going to be a lot less time to do than having to hand gather parts of the skirt. So we're going to start sewing this wrong sides together first so that we could do that nice French seam on the inside so it looks all nice and neat. So yeah, fingers crossed that this all works and turns out okay. The top is attached to the waistband. Yes, I still need to do the next bit of the French seam, but ignore that for a sec. Moment of truth. Let's see if this is actually going to fit. Yay! It's actually going to fit. Thank God. And I should still have a little bit of room for breathing and all of that jazz. So that's really good. So yeah, let's just keep rolling while we've still got energy to do this. So this is how we're looking. I'm looking so good. I'm so happy. Is it perfect? Not by any stretch of the imagination at all, especially with these side seams. They match up okay on that side, but on this side, there's a good like half centimetre difference, but that's okay. If anybody is going to be looking that closely at my seams, I think they're getting a little bit too close to me anyway, so it's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going to take a break, I'm going to get some food, I'm going to fuel up, and then we're going to start on the back seam and the invisible zipper. So that's going to be fun because I did buy an invisible zipper foot that I've not actually used before, so fingers crossed that goes okay. I'm sure it will. I have done an invisible zipper before, so that should all be fine. Yeah, I will be back in a minute. Or for you, it'll be like 5 seconds, but yeah. Okay, we're back. I'm fueled up and ready to smash out the rest of this dress. So, invisible zipper time. So what I'm going to do, just to test out the foot, because I've not really tested this foot yet, is I'm going to use the original back that I seamed off this morning and just like a spare random zipper that I have, just so I can get a feel of the foot and actually using it before I use it on the actual dress itself. So let's do that and then we'll get it installed and then we'll start thinking about how we can finish the back seam. Okay, so the foot is on. I've got my little tester piece here, so let's see how this goes. Because I really don't know. Why doesn't this feel correct? Okay, let's give it a go. Oh my god, did that actually work? Right, gets pulled out. Oh yeah, look at that. So then when it would be actually facing outwards, it would look like that. Wow! Okay, that worked better than I thought it was going to work. Okay, cool. Well, let's get on to actually sewing it on the main dress, I guess. Actually, I might try the other side first. That sounds like a good idea. And then I'll try it on the main dress. And we have, obviously it's not very invisible at the moment because this is, you know, green and blue. Look at that! New skill unlocked. Woohoo! Oh, that's made me so happy. Right, okay, let's do it on the actual main dress now. Okay, so the zipper is in. Oh, and I think this might be the best looking zipper I've ever installed in my life. I know it's not blue. I couldn't find an invisible zipper in blue that would get here in time, but still, I think it's not particularly noticeable. So yeah, I'm so happy with it. So yeah, another skill unlocked. Woohoo! So we're now on to the final stretch, which is really, really exciting. So I need to finish some of the inside seams on the skirt and where I've installed the zipper. I need to put the bias binding around the neckline. I need to put hook and eyes on the back halter piece and also where the zip is as well, because there's a little bit of a gap at the top, so I might need to put a hook and eye in there. And then we can start thinking about hemming. So hoping to get the majority of that done today, and then I might just need half a day just to do a very simple hem, but we'll see how much time I have between now and the wedding. So yeah, let's get on to finishing up seams, making it look all pretty and professional, making sure it doesn't, you know, shed itself to death. And yeah, I'm so excited. We're on to seam finishes, which is something I've not really done as much before, but for this garment, I want it to stand the test of time. So I really want to make sure that the insides are as clean as possible. So for the side seams where the pockets are, I did the French seams for the actual pocket openings, but for the rest of the seams, they are on the selvage. So they're not going to have as much of a tendency to fray. So what I'm thinking of doing is just kind of folding them over like that and then just sewing that down, just so it's not quite as floppy as it is at the moment. For the back seam, I'm not quite sure what to do, because especially I probably should have done something to the actual bit with the zip before I put the zip in, but I was just too excited about putting the zip in. So I kind of have two options really. First one is bias binding them, which I think would be the better option and the better option in the long term. But I don't know if I think my seam allowance on the bottom will be okay, but the seam allowance on the top where the actual zip is might be a bit of an issue. So we might have to do a combination of a couple of things in order to finish this seam off. But I think we'll just kind of have a play around and see what works and what doesn't. Let's do the side seams first, because I know what I want to do with those, and then we'll focus on the back seam.
Many hours later.
Okay, update. It is 4 o'clock. I'm very tired, very, very tired, and I think I need to stop here for today. I'm very aware that I've still got the neckline and the hem to do, but if I carry on, I'm going to make a mistake, and I know I'm going to make a mistake. So I'm going to call it here. I have managed to do or finish off all of the seams. So this is the back seam with the zipper. So I've done bias binding on it, which I've done okay. I could have done better, but it will at least stop it stopping fraying really badly. And then on the other seams, I've just folded it over and stitched it down, just so the selvage edge isn't the first thing that you see if you looked inside the garment. I have tried it on with the zip properly installed, and it does fit, and there is a little bit of room for me to be able to sit and eat and do all of that kind of stuff. So I'm really happy with that. It's looking so good. So yeah, you will see the conclusion to this in about a second.
2 weeks later.
It is day 3 of trying to finish this dress. It has been 2 weeks since I last saw you. For you, it's probably only been a couple of seconds, but the last time that I worked on this was 2 weeks ago. And the wedding is now in 3 days. I'm not panicking, you are. So we still have quite a bit left to finish. So we're just going to crack on. I've had another thought about the fit. I tried it on a couple of days ago to try a different type of hairstyle for the wedding. And I was still not particularly happy with the fit. So I'm going to take in about 1 centimetre on each side at the back, and I'm going to try and make it look like a seam or like a dart, so it looks more intentional and not that I'm just taking it in. Then I can finish off the bias binding around the back of the neckline. I can put in the hooks and eyes on the back of the neck and on the top of the zip, and then I can hem. So yeah, we've got until the end of today to do this. You might get a lot of voiceover, Abby, in the rest of this video, because I just really need to crack on and get this done. So yeah, let's start with the fit and go from there. This project has tested a lot of my sewing skills, from the basics right up to the more complex parts like finishing the seams, doing different types of fastenings, and even the bias binding, which I've done before, but on this type of fabric it was even more difficult than normal. But I think that's part of the reason why I've enjoyed this project so much. It's challenged me to think not just about the final product, but taking my time to really enjoy the details of the construction along the way. So, without further ado, here's the final reveal. So, final thoughts on this dress. Honestly, it's the best piece of clothing I've made in my sewing journey so far. I love how it looks. It was comfortable to wear the whole night, and I got loads of compliments on it, which, you know, it always helps. There's a couple of small improvements I want to make to it, especially with the hook and eye closures on the back. The ones at the top of the skirt just need redoing so they're a little bit more secure. And the one on the back of the neck needs completely replacing because when I was getting ready, it kept popping open, which, you know, flashing small children at a wedding is not particularly on my 2025 bingo card. So I definitely need to find a better solution for that because currently it is being held together with a safety pin. I'm a little bit disappointed that I didn't have time to do the horsehair braid on the hem, but because it's a full circle skirt instead of a gathered skirt like in the original pattern, I think I kind of got away with it. I think it still looked really nice, it flowed really nicely, and I think maybe the horsehair braid would have been just a little bit too much. The thing that I'm most happy with is actually how I feel while wearing this dress. I've always had a problem with how clothes fit me. Standard sizing just doesn't really work for my body and my proportions. So having a dress that fits me like a glove and makes me feel pretty and special is definitely my favourite part of this dress. So yeah, that's that. If you've made it this far, put a dress emoji in the comments. My next project is a little bit more fun and a little bit more relaxed. That will be coming in a couple of weeks' time, so stay tuned for that. Until then, stay chaotic, and I will see you soon. Bye bye!